Hello and welcome to the JTrain podcast. This is JTrain, Jared Freid, coming to you live from the West Village of Manhattan. That's right, it's a Chit Chat Wednesday. Today's guest is Anthony DeVito, good friend of mine, just always awesome to talk to him. Anytime that we do a podcast, I just start right away. We just hit record the minute we jump on Zoom, and you're going to feel that today. We talk about him being in Austin and having a drunken Sunday night and waking up. I literally texted him 20 minutes before taping, and he was like, I'm a hungover. And I go, perfect. So we talk about being hungover and drinking and doing shows in Louisiana, which, you know, I've been down there. It's always fun. Going to Louisiana in general just feels like another country. We talk about that. Then we talk about a little state of comedy stuff, which I hope people like and enjoy. I would love to see comments on this video if you watched and liked the interview. Just some thoughtful comments on state of the industry, if it makes sense, because I do think a lot about this and what comedy people are doing and where, you know, Austin being this new hub for comedy, and they take a lot of pride in it, and Joe Rogan being there, and he opened a club, and now you're kind of encouraged because you see what's successful in Austin to be a little bit more extreme. And Anthony and I finished the chit chat, and I pressed stop, and then we compared doing comedy in Austin to doing wrestling in the ECW. And ECW was this hardcore wrestling league. They throw people onto, you know, nails and through tables. And yeah, WWE did that, but this was a little bit, you know, outside the standard deviation of normal hardcore stuff. So when we were talking about in that scene, yeah, you say something and it gets a laugh, but then you leave it and people are like, what are you talking about? You can't say those things. So it is interesting to me. So I would love to hear from you. And then we talk about Stephen A. Smith, just because Anthony's a sports fan like I am. And I've kind of had this weird thing with Stephen A. Smith where you're watching him, who he's the producer and the owner of the show because he makes so much money. And everyone that he's debating with kind of works for him. So it's a little weird and emblematic, I think. And then we talk about the Lookalike contest, which since I did Pop Culture Thursday last week, I talked about the Jeremy Allen White Lookalike contest. There are more popping up. So I thought, let's talk to Anthony about that. So just a fun talk. I had fun. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and enjoy today's episode. Boom. Welcome to the new JTrain podcast. Hello and welcome to the JTrain podcast. This is JTrain, Jared Freid, coming to you live from the West Village of Manhattan. That's right, it's a Chit Chat Wednesday. Every Wednesday I'm joined by a guest, a friend, a foe, a compadre. Today we have an OKP, original key player, Anthony DeVito. Thank you. Coming to us live from Austin, Texas. How are you?
Hungover.
You're hungover. I have questions written for you. You ready?
Oh, you wrote them down?
I wrote them down.
This is going to be like Turning Point.
Yes. Why are you What did you do why are you hungover? It's a Monday morning. I booked you 10 minutes ago. So to let people behind the curtains, I was like, this holiday week messed with me. I have to fly I went daily to the podcast, and this just changes the whole dynamic of the podcast.
You're doing this every day now?
So I do Mailbag Monday. I do Ticked Off Tuesday. I do Chit Chat Wednesday. Pop Culture Thursday. And it's supposed to be 20 minutes. So our Chit Chat.
I see.
That's why I said half hour max. But usually we go long. I alone. You know, my neighbors must think I'm crazy. I just talk to myself every day.
Yeah, they really do. They must think you're the loneliest. They're working on a script right now called The Loneliest Man in Manhattan.
Literally, there's moments where I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then I'm just imagining someone next door boy, this guy's really going through it. How are you hungover? What did you do last night? It's a Monday morning. The Monday morning hangover is I am a Sunday drinker. It's my favorite night of the week to drink. So
That
I
is
get it.
true, man. Yeah, you are. For as long as I've known you, Sunday is your Friday.
Sunday is the Lord's Day. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a Friday doesn't matter to me. A Sunday, it's like I don't know. I just really like to bathe in the pigsty that is a Sunday. Like any amount of
Yes.
food, drinks. You don't, the real people are out. It's not like someone's birthday. I don't know. What did you do last night? So what did you do in Austin?
So I was doing a run of shows in Louisiana. So I did
Oh man, say no more. Now I know why you're hungover. Louisiana, like that place, it's like going to another country. You like I have to do what the people do here.
yeah, and it just so happens what the people do here is just get fucking hammered.
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 I,
Hammered, and but the thing is it's fun because like some places like you'll go to the Midwest and they're drinking to they're drinking for like repression. You know what I mean?
okay.
They're like it's winter, there's like a lot of stuff going on. It's not a happy, they're not happy to be doing it. They're like we have to do this to get through whatever we have to get through. Whereas New Orleans, it's like, oh no, we're doing this because it's a party. So
It's
you don't,
sport.
yeah, you don't so much feel like you're you just feel like exactly. You're just like this is part of the culture. I'm with the culture right now.
I went to so like New Orleans is New Orleans, but I went to Baton Rouge to
Yeah.
LSU Alabama. Were you
Oh,
for I like did this game show way back when where one of the
right, man.
stops I went to 14 different college
Jesus
football games
Christ,
around
dude.
the country, and one of the stops was LSU, and I said the one thing that like I would write these things afterwards and like give the feeling of what it was like.
Right.
And it's funny whenever you're like, I'm not trying to be critical of any town. I'm just like saying how I felt. Like I don't need a place to suck. Like, like I think people when they read a review of their place, they get like hot and bothered a little bit. But I'm like, I understand why anyone would live anywhere. Like you said about the Midwest. Like I get why someone lives in Wisconsin, goes to a bar that looks like a grandma's basement and like sips a beer and plays dice on the bar. Like I get why all of that exists.
Right.
And I get why you have a happy life doing that. Baton Rouge was the most dangerous place I've ever hung out and drank.
Really?
I always felt like someone was going to just come by and cold clock me. Like, not like gun dangerous, but like just drinking dangerous, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. What was the do you think it was just because of the LSU Alabama game, or you think that was just kind of the sentiment of the town?
I think it was cocaine. It was a
Okay.
cocaine energy. Like, and maybe it was the game that people are doing more cocaine, but it just
Right.
felt like cocaine was in the air. Like, it just felt like that type of energy. Whether people were on drugs or not, I'm just saying, like, that just and the game probably adds to the sauce a little bit. But I definitely had this air of like, keep your head on a swivel, dude. Like. So where
Yeah.
did you drink last night?
Last night was Austin. So, and I'll say this too. I always forget to rule it, to take into account drugs as a factor, and
Oh, right.
especially cocaine, just because and I'm not judging. I've never done it.
Mm.
So I think when you don't do something, you forget that, it's pumping through the veins of potentially everybody else around you. And then you walk into a place and you're like, oh, everyone's being kind of weird. And in some ways they're like, actually, you're the one who's kind of weird because they're all very much on cocaine and you
Right.
are not.
I remember the day in college I realized people were doing cocaine. And I
Yeah.
remember being like, oh, like feeling like an idiot. I was like, oh, the doors are locked because of that. Like I I didn't know. Like, and I'm not
Totally.
saying this
Yeah.
to be like better than anyone else. Like
No.
since then I've done, a share of it. Not like,
Yeah.
I do think that drug, like, this was pre fentanyl in the cocaine, which was like
Mm.
that became a thing like loosely to me, or it came into my world during the pandemic, where like, oh, like you could just be like having a fun night and just drop fucking dead. And I was like, that's not that whatever amount of fun that is, it's not enough fun for me to not be like losing my mind. Like thinking that this is, we're taking a shot here. Like I just, and then people were like, no, now you can buy the testing strips with it. And I'm like, nah, I'm not, this is not the world I'm getting involved in.
Yeah. Also too, during the pandemic, you're like, how many testing kits do I need?
I don't have COVID. No, you use the cocaine fentanyl test.
You have to go through all of them and rule out everything.
Right. You got all
your body.
You're like, are we pregnant? Am I on fentanyl? Do I have COVID? I don't know what's going on. It would be very confusing times.
Good news, bad news, weird news.
Right.
No fentanyl. I do have a little bit of COVID. I am very pregnant.
This sickness is crazy. Yeah. It is funny though that like Louisiana, when you mention it, like you're like, I had a weekend run in Louisiana. I'm like, oh man, I get that. I've always said that New Orleans is like anti-Semitically coded. Like really? All the drinks are sugary, the food has dairy. Like it's all you're just basically saying to Jews like, stay out of here. This ain't for you.
Can I say in the history of how Jews have been treated, that's your best case scenario.
Right. they were like, let's put some dairy in a lot of the foods, and we'll mess with them in a annoying way. You know, yeah.
The Nazis went right at you guys.
Yeah,
New Orleans was like, we'll just load up on dairy.
Right.
So this will be more effective than what they did over there.
We don't have to kill anyone. We just this will keep them away. We will never see a Jew around us if we just make sure that we make this thing called a grenade.
Right. And we'll just do a seltzer law. There's no seltzer allowed in New Orleans. And trust me, they will stay away.
I love that you think that seltzer. If there's no seltzer, there's no Jews.
Yeah,
Game over.
Let me say this, and I know that's a
here we go.
It's a stereotype that has been proven true by almost every one of my friends who's Jewish.
I mean, the flavored seltzers, I love a soda.
You, Libby, Gondelman, and Sam. I've never seen four more people with such a high seltzer intake. Oh, and it just so happens you're all Jewish.
I think it's all about weight stuff. Like, when I see someone order a Coca-Cola, like I am like, whoa, this guy's crazy. Like I think because it's like 0 calorie, and especially the flavored seltzers, and I call it club soda. Then seltzer is a New York tri-state area naming.
Oh really? Oh, I didn't realize that.
I'm pretty positive. Seltzer and club soda are the same thing. But I think maybe it was a tissue Kleenex thing. So where did you go last night? Did you do a show last night?
So last night, I did Baton Rouge Thursday. But it was.
Did you fear the danger that I felt, or is it not relatable?
I felt the danger just because the streets were so desolate, and it felt like but they had all the buildings, and I think that's always they had all the buildings and businesses were open, but nobody was out on the streets, which made me think something's happening in town. Like there's a killer on the loose. Is kind of how it made me feel. So I was uneasy.
I don't know if that's a New York thing for us, because I made a video from Cleveland and I was like, the city's here, right? But there's no one here, and it like blew up because like all these Cleveland people were like, then go back, get out of here, and I'm like, I'm just saying, it looks like the set of a movie, like it just and I think this is happening in a lot of cities where like you don't have to go to your office, people are working remote, like these, I don't know. I would hate to tell people to go into work just so I feel better about a city being more bustling.
Wow, yeah. If you really want to be a New York asshole, that's great.
Get back in here. Yeah.
I came here for 2 days and it just wasn't New York. So if you could
Right.
make it a little more New York for me, that'd be great.
This isn't Baton Rouge enough. I need people walking around hailing taxis. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but I think there is something probably biological where if you see like they built a downtown,
Mm-hmm.
they put business, but nobody came, you go, "Oh, there's been another pandemic." Like
Right.
there people who should be here are not here because something horrific has happened. And I'm just walking around like a moron who didn't read the news.
Right. Right. It's and you keep hearing like this is the thing where you go, I don't know what to believe. Like, are we doing well? Are we doing badly? Is society is everyone just shuttered in their home doing cocaine? Is that what's going on? I'm trying to break the record for the most times cocaine has been mentioned on a podcast. I think
Yeah,
I'm there.
yeah. Well, for a Chit Chat Wednesday, I mean, you can handle this on Mailbag Monday if you want, or
Mailbag
Beachy
goes
Tuesdays,
right
or
in.
Thursday at the office, or whatever.
It's Pop Culture Thursday. I have a question for you, Pop Culture Thursday related,
Please.
because we haven't gotten to your Austin night, which I like Austin. It shows you Austin. Well, let's go back to your drinking night. So you go
Sure.
Baton Rouge,
Baton
and
Rouge Thursday, New Orleans Friday,
okay,
Lafayette Saturday.
wow. Is someone
Yeah.
driving you to these locations? Are you driving yourself?
The governor of Louisiana he's escorting me everywhere.
in a
Yeah, no,
big in a
yeah,
big horse-drawn carriage, one of those southern-looking.
yeah. He's actually parading me through the highways. There's a sign that says "Ask
Yeah.
a Yankee whatever you want," and people are hurling questions on the highway at me. Um,
What's it like to see people? Yeah.
what an MJU smell like?
Seltzer.
So we do that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then drive. He was gonna drive to Austin anyway on Sunday to go see a show. He was gonna go see Kyle Kinane at Mothership. He
Okay.
knows Kinane, was gonna go see Kinane.
This is the opener.
This is the booker for like the whole run.
Got it.
Great guy, like great dude, great shows, like all three Louisiana shows, a lot of fun in different ways, but all like a lot of fun.
Okay,
So
great.
go to Austin, and then Normand was doing the early show at Mothership.
Okay.
So I was headlining the Velveeta room. So I do that, and then yeah, Mark, me, the booker, JP, a couple other comics. Just, I mean, you kind of forget that even though Austin is like this like third city that's sort of trying to
Mm.
contend for second place or first place or whatever it's trying to do, it's still compared to New York relatively inexpensive
Oh,
in terms
very inexpensive.
yeah,
The
in terms of
Uber
drinks.
drinks, Ubers. Drinks and Ubers are kind of like how there's a thing called the Big Mac rating where like
Uh-huh.
the the real difference in currency is
Right.
rated by a Big Mac, like how much it costs to have a Big Mac in Europe versus here versus Austin versus New York, and that kind of tells you how far your money goes. I
Right.
kind of have my own Big Mac rating when it comes to like Ubers and martinis. The martini
Yeah,
rating. Yeah.
those are the two things I'm doing.
Right.
When I'm coming to your city, I am getting a martini and I'm taking an
Yeah.
Uber. I'm taking Uber to get there and to come back. So it's like, yeah, those are the most important things to me.
Right.
And how much is the delivery charge on DoorDash at 1 a.m.?
Absolutely. These are all the ways we rank how cities are doing currency wise and how expensive they are. I agree.
Right. It could be on fire around me, but if it's like not that much of a surcharge, I'm like, Winnipeg is
Wow.
actually doing pretty well.
This place is great. $5 martini.
Yeah.
Wow. I could live here forever. I don't have to
Yeah,
even
Uber
work
XL,
again.
$8. I'll go to the airport for fun.
Dude, I was just in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I went golfing. I've gotten into golf. I've really
Always supposed to be happening, and
This
you
is-
you just delayed it.
this is exactly where the trajectory of my life. So I went to this course like 20 minutes away, and then I ordered an Uber on my phone. I got done golfing. I went at 7 a.m. I got done at 11:30. I'm like ordering the Uber to like have it come while I'm returning clubs and stuff. So
Right.
I didn't even look at the price. And then we got in the Uber and I like take out my phone. I'm like, you know what? Let's go to this restaurant so I can eat something. So I changed the location. Then it updates and it was like, your price has changed to $100. And I was like, what happened here? And like I had no and I go to the guy, I go, I think there's something wrong with my price. And he's like he's just he's like,
Of course, he doesn't know. Yeah.
you signed up for this, dude. I didn't do shit.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't say to you, like, I wasn't like a cab being like a gypsy cab being like, yo, I'll take your cash. You know, like I was like, and he heard me just like coming to terms with like, this is $100 Uber. And I'm like, I was like, does this exist in Oklahoma? Like, what's going on here? I was so shocked by it. But if that was a 20-minute ride in New York, I'd go, yeah, this happens, surge and all that stuff, you know, like that type of thing. But so you go out and you start drinking last night. And I tried to go to the mothership last time I was in Austin. They wouldn't let me in. It was very, I had a whole thing. It kind of, to me, it kind of represented what that whole comedy scene was all about. There was like 10 armed guards outside of the mothership. Yeah. And I walk up and I'm like, hey, I'm a comedian from New York. And there was like one door guy that came out. He's like, we're closed, man. And I was like, yeah, I just came in from the city. I'm doing shows over at Cap City. I just wanted to check out the club. He's like, closed.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, sounds like you don't let a lot of seltzer in your establishment.
Yeah, there is something. Yeah, there are like 20. There's 20 Marines parked outside. It's
crazy. It's very, and it's exactly what like a liberal comic in Brooklyn would think the mothership would have outside of it. And for those listening at home or watching and not familiar with the comedy world, which I'm not expecting you to be, the mothership is Joe Rogan's club in Austin. It has become a certain type of mecca for a certain type of comic, I would say, right?
I would say, I mean, it's weird because like having been here and you see a lot of really good comedy. You see people here who want to be really good comedians. And like I will say down like here they do play faster and looser with their words. For sure.
Really?
I think that's probably
you don't say.
Put it. But when you see someone who's funny, you're like, they're funny and they have that attached, but you don't notice it as that doesn't seem like the primary goal. That's just a matter of like they're in this environment and that's what you do in this environment. So that's kind
of my issue. You know, like I you know that it's I hear you, you know, it's funny like I mean the first time I met Shane Gillis, I remember saying like that guy's driving 90 in a 75.
Oh, no, thank you.
Is that the housekeeping?
Yeah.
I go, that guy's driving 90 in a 75. Like,
they're coming in.
Yeah, they should come in. They didn't hear you go.
Okay. I'm all good.
He's hungover.
Oh, and then
do you have any Tums?
I watched the door go like this. They go,
what?
The latch.
They just opened and closed it like real slowly, like a ghost.
Yeah, actually, yes. But yeah, what were you saying?
I was just saying that when I met Shane, I was like, this guy's driving 90 in a 75. Like this guy, he's saying things I'm like funny, but I'm like, okay, you know, like and I could imagine when the king of the land is 90 in a 75. Now you got a bunch of people doing 120 in a 75, in addition to the people doing that don't know how to drive, and they're emulating the guy doing 90 in a 75, and like that's what it is. Like I mean, we see that, and the fair thing to say is that we see that in Brooklyn. You know, the person doing trauma porn comedy in Brooklyn. You know, they start with like, yeah, I have body dysmorphia, and then and then the next person gets on stage and is like, everyone tells me how fat I am all the time, and I am here to tell you my horrific tale. You know, it goes. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Sometimes in Brooklyn, they just announce all the things they are as just like sort of a list, and then that's like the whole thing. You know what I mean?
It's the whole set.
Here, I am this and that. I am that, and that.
I identify as they, them, as well as I have some acne today, and I.
And both sides, it is like, you know, they're both doing the same thing in drastically different ways, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, so you what you're saying is true. And I think when it's bad, it stands out more just because like, oh, now you've said the craziest shit I've ever heard for the
Right.
sake of just saying it. So that it's a little louder because of that.
Well, it
I think that's
it
why
almost
there's
ruins the people doing it well,
no,
because you
totally.
go
Yes. It
right,
lumps them in, unfortunately.
because all you think about is the guy who's saying horrific things,
Yes.
and you're like, this is what they do here, in the
Yep.
same way you would do that in Brooklyn, and the same way you would do that anywhere else. So
Right. So
you
then
go
when I get on stage and I go, I'm a liberal cuck, they go, we don't, we've seen it 100 times. We've
right,
version of
right.
it.
I mean, it's got to be hard to do comedy. I just wanted to see what it was like, because I just know that, like, if you're
Yeah.
at a show, and you know this, like, it's at a point where, like, we know, like, when we're at a show and which audience has shown up to that show. Like, I'm like, you can just
Yeah.
feel by the type of laugh. Like,
Yep.
if it's like a male, ha, ha, ha,
Mhm.
ha, I'm like, who from the Rogan verse is on this thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
They're
know?
they're more withholding. Like they're like they
Yes.
they have an energy where it's like, I came here for a show, but I could fight you.
Right. If you fuck this up for me.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a very stilted laugh.
Yes.
It's not free because they're not, you know.
That is
You can
that's
tell.
you just said what would the kids say? Bars, man. That was poetry. It's not
Yeah.
free. It's not a free laugh. We
What
can
would a
tell a
white
free
11-year-old say? Bars.
bars, man. Chit Chat Wednesday, where you hear all the new slang. Hold on. Now, Anthony, so what
Yeah.
before we get
Yeah.
into your drinking issues, we are sponsored. Hero Bread holiday season typically means a whole lot of carbs. Okay, listen, I've done this ad so many times. Do you know what Hero Bread is, Anthony?
No, I don't. I mean, bread
It's
that's specifically for hero sandwiches.
That's a good guess. I'm going to tell you a very funny story after this, because what you just said is hilarious. I was on stage in Oklahoma City, or in Tulsa this past weekend. I had maybe the worst show I've ever had in like 14 years of comedy. It was the late show Saturday night. Tickets did not sell. I'm in Tulsa. Like, Tulsa is a type of town where I don't usually have a lot of people show up. And then I also got this date like 3 weeks ago, and
I,
also it's the South version of Syracuse. Like, at least in Syracuse, there's like New Yorker who moved there and has a family and brought their friends. And this was like so far outside of my radius. And I did this bit about Rob Lowe that I've been doing for like 2 years now. And I am like, there's a part where I feel the need to explain Rob Lowe, because I'm like, people don't react to the premise, so I'm like, maybe you don't know who Rob Lowe is. And there was a guy in the crowd that goes, it was like there were hecklers, and this one person yelled out, and this guy in the crowd goes, who's Rob Lowe? Interrupts the heckler to heckle me to ask who Rob Lowe is. And he goes, well, he must be short. And I go, why would he be short? And he goes, Rob Lowe,
oh man.
not Rob High. And I go, dude, I literally looked at him. I go, if it's a joke that you just did, that's the worst joke I've ever heard in my entire life. But I appreciate it. It's very Borscht Bell. If it's not a joke, you're the dumbest person I've ever met in my entire life. Like, you're acting as if we name people the same way people would name people in Renaissance times. Like, that's Joe Blacksmith.
Right.
Like that's even crazier. And
Yeah, everyone's last name would be Baby because that's the name of it. It'd all be that.
Anthony Baby.
Yeah, yeah. Jared White Baby. Anthony
Jared White Baby.
Yeah.
Well, so Hero Bread, it being on a hero is a better guess than Rob Lowe being short because he's named Rob Lowe, which is
Totally.
crazy.
Yeah.
So Hero Bread is just healthier bread. It has 0 grams of sugar, 1 gram of 0 to 1 gram of net carbs. It has more fiber. It's basically bread that doesn't make you feel like you had bread. Okay, it's gonna keep you fuller longer. And they have different types of bread, like tortillas and buns and English muffins, and they'll do drops and stuff like that. But I just want to tell everyone out there, we're looking for efficiency, and Hero Bread is a way to do it. Make your sandwich work for you.
Mm.
Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order of their new recipe. Go to hero.co, use code JTrain at checkout. That's JTrain at HERO.co. So that's our first sponsor, and the second sponsor is Lumen. And this is another health-related sponsor. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It measures your metabolism through your breath so you can stay consistent with your goals. So why would you do this? You want to keep up with where your body's at in the same way you'd want to keep up with steps. If you're at 9,000 steps, you're like, hey, I'm going to maybe take another walk today. The same with Lumen. You just breathe into the device first thing in the morning. You'll get all the info about what's going on in there and whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. So now you can eat differently that day. Breathe into it after meals and workouts to get a look at how things are going in real time. So you're going to get more in touch with your body, which makes you a smarter, more well-informed eater and person who goes and stays active. So if you want to stay on track with your health this holiday season, go to lumen.me/JTrain to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/JTrain for 15% off your purchase. Lumen makes a great gift too. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. So those are the two sponsors that are in the description of this episode. Okay. So Anthony.
Yes.
So you get drunk last night. What time are you out till?
I think like 4. Yeah, man. So
What are you doing?
it was one of those nights where, I think we sort of wrapped with our shows around like 10:30, 11, and then it was like a good little crew, and we all didn't know each other that well, so a lot of jokes were new, personalities were fresh, so it's
Right.
like, and we're speaking a common tongue, everyone's getting along, sensibilities are
Full,
similar.
full sheath full of stories. You got
Yes,
man,
yeah.
Greg Stone would have loved this. Would have just
Yeah,
came
yeah.
his pants. All of Greg's bits would have been fair game.
Exactly, man. So we're getting hammered at this like bar across the, which notoriously in Austin serves like super strong drinks. So we are getting fucked up. And then at some point somebody says strip club, and then
Uh-oh.
once you breach that, then there's no turning back. And
You
especially
just need two people to
yeah.
go, I'm in. And
Yeah,
then
I was both people.
oh, that actually, I was at the Cellar last night and someone mentioned strip club and I literally go, I gotta go, goodbye, gotta go. That was like my strip club is either like a horn that brings in people or chases them away.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And
I gotta say, Anthony, when I start
tend to answer the call.
you're like, ooh, you're turning your head. Anthony, I didn't see this. When I asked you to do a Monday morning, hey, jump on a Zoom with me for Chit Chat Wednesday, I didn't see a lot of cocaine and strip club talk, but this is the new Anthony. I didn't realize. Look what Austin's done to you.
Austin, Anthony. What do you mean we can't say it? Why can't we say it?
That's the thing. Is everyone doing that bit? There's not one person going up being like dating stuff. Or they're like, but their version of dating stuff in Austin is like, these women, like.
I honestly, man, and I think it's probably because, I mean, I obviously just saw Mark's set, which I know Mark's set. So Mark's set's great. And the Mothership, it's a beautiful room. And I didn't see much of it outside of that. And then the show I did was kind of, it was a fun show. It was kind of a glorified bar show. So it was a lot of younger comics just doing younger comic sets.
Right.
Which were like, you could have seen those in New York. I didn't really hear anything that I was like, oh, you're punching so far above your pay grade.
Right.
No,
well,
in a certain way. Like
it's funny that those shows become harder to do too, because like you're going up and being like, I just want to tell this story about my family, and then the person that and I never understood this when I first started comedy, like the complaint of like everyone on this show is doing like just going off on like.
Yeah.
Like whatever rant, just going ultra dirty or ultra like, like just like dark stuff, right? And then you're like, okay, how do I even go up there?
Totally. I actually think it was, and they weren't really there was maybe like a hint of that, but like to be honest with you, they seemed like a set you would have seen coming up in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It was maybe a little darker, a little more ambitious because of the city that they're plucked in to do stand up, but it wasn't anything where I was like, I need to write these down and tell you and tell Greg, you know what I mean? And be like,
Right, right.
it,
You won't
it was,
believe this guy with the Rob Lowe because he's
yeah,
short
yeah.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't that. And then if anything too, it was kind of when I went up, I felt like kind of refreshing because,
Right.
because everyone, not everyone, but you see so many people sort of like dance toward the values of the right, which it's like if you are, you are. But
Right.
so I think seeing someone come up who was like, yeah, I'm a liberal, you know what I mean? It was kind of like, holy, like this guy's a renegade, you know?
Right, 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 right. This is dangerous. Well, that's kind of how it works too.
Yeah,
Like, everything as things shift and you stay the same, like, the weather around you
right.
changes. You don't change,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. But yeah, then we went to this strip club at like 2 in the morning. But
oh my
here I had
God.
it was yeah, and it was and they had the drinks were very expensive at the strip club, but you could do a bottle for $100, which is a
That's how they
killer.
get you.
But it's a great deal, man.
Well, it's a great deal, but that gets you in your pocket with more tips. Like,
Sure,
I think
yes,
there's like it's like how to it's what do they say? One half versus 50%. Like they got you. $100 bottle of vodka. Like I'm gonna be so wasted that like everything in my pocket just goes to this place. Like it's all going to them anyways.
right. Well, joke's on them. There's not too much in my pocket, so there's only but the reservoir is only but so deep.
So when
Um,
do you come back to New York?
I come back to New York in a couple hours. So I
Oh, so
fly like late afternoon.
that's I mean, like, I'm envious of your day. Like, right now, we couldn't be more apart. Like, I haven't drank in 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and it hasn't helped as much as I thought it would. I thought my mindset would be different. I'd be like
I think you got to give it longer than 2 weeks. I
jumping
think
out of bed. I don't know.
give it like at least a month because I think, not that you were drinking so much or anything like,
Right.
but give it a full month, man.
I'm so next week. So the toughest week for me is this week because I was in Tulsa. I was like, I don't need. I ended up going to like these really nice dinners in Tulsa. I have to say the food there was unbelievable and very cheap. My Big Mac
Right.
index there was kicking. So I've been eating not better, but like a king. Like
Yeah, totally.
but haven't drank, and then so this week will be tough because I love like Thanksgiving is a
Yeah.
Sunday to me.
Yep.
Like that is just the
Hmm.
ultimate Sunday.
You
So
get a Sunday during the week. It's so
that
nice.
it's the best. There's nothing better, and there's no obligation. I love the jokes that I make every year about Thanksgiving. Like there's hits that I've been hitting for 14
Right.
years, where there's been
Yeah,
people
yeah.
I've been making fun of for 14 years, and I get enjoyment out of making those jokes every year. I have two questions for you before we
Yeah.
go. What do you think of the Lookalike contests happening across the country?
Oh, yeah, that
So
is a good question, man.
there's been Timothy Chalamet where he actually showed up. There was a Jeremy Allen White one where the winner got a pack of cigarettes, and it was in
Right.
Chicago. There was rumors of a Jalen Hurts one happening in Philadelphia.
Okay.
They did a there was a third one, and I'm having trouble remembering it. But what do you think of this as a thing? I just want your thoughts.
Well, I think the sports one I think is the most dangerous one because you have so many people that bet now whose like lives have been decimated potentially by Jalen Hurts who are in Philadelphia. And these are people who are like, well, I can't get close to him, but I can get close to you. Oh, no, thank you. I actually got a late checkout, so I should be all right.
This is the most. This is the most. I would say. The one of the hardest working um housekeeper. Like like I will take no for an answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got a late checkout, so I'm okay.
They're still going.
Still going.
No mas.
Maybe we're being too loud. I don't know. That's possible.
Oh,
Uh,
maybe. How loud are we being? We're
I
talking,
don't think we're
chit
being,
chatting.
yeah, I don't think we're being loud at all. I'm just trying to figure out what's happening. So that's for
So
the
you think that someone could come to the Jalen Hurts
yeah.
lookalike contest, who's the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, and take out their aggression on a fake Jalen Hurts?
I definitely think that could happen. Yes.
Who's
They're just coming in. Hello?
I think they should come in because I don't think they're getting the message. I think every time
I have
I
the
think
sign on the door too.
that's crazy. Well, I would understand as a housekeeper, you're like, once I get all the rooms done, I can leave. If that's how it works, I get it.
Totally.
Like if they were like, hey man, if I was a housekeeper or a hotel cleaner, and they were like, you got 10 rooms a day. When you get those done, get out of here. We don't even want you in the way.
Yes.
I would be there at 6 a.m., get it done, day over. Then I'm driving Uber and I'm making extra dough.
Then it all, yeah.
Yeah, I guess pretty entrepreneurial, endeavor for me. So,
yeah.
you think that they would go and attack whoever Jalen, Hurts lookalike would be?
I think with sports it could backfire because of that. I think with actors it's great because now you have people, and I always say this, like you have people that are like, I want to, women, I mean, as a man, you'd be like this. I'm thinking this from my perspective, right? So you have women that go, I've always wanted Chalamet, I've always wanted Jeremy Allen White. This is the closest. This is in all of Chicagoland. This is the closest I can get. So I might send him a DM.
Right. Yeah, I would say that the guy who won, he looked like as good a version as Jeremy Allen White. Like he was like in shape, he was good looking. There was a guy in the picture next to him that was like, and I think of Greg Stone's bit where it's like you're fat Spider-Man or something.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be fat whatever. Like I wouldn't want to be like poor man's version of the thing. Like you can only go if you are comparable. Or I think the other ones I would want to attend are like, I think it would be funny to go as, like you'd have to be like the Chris Farley auditioning for Chippendales in the sketch.
Right. Yeah, that's funny.
Like you have to go so serious and be so far away from it that it actually becomes funny. It has to be known it's a joke that you're there for the lookalike contest for it to be fun, or it has to be you will get banged from going to this lookalike contest.
Right.
I don't think there can be. I think the people in the middle, their lives are ruined by it.
Mm-hmm. I also think too, because they're becoming more and more popular, where I do wonder if like they happen in more smaller towns where they barely have one guy who remotely looks like that. Because so far it's like New York and Chicago, but
yeah,
I could see this trending to very smaller towns where they're just like, oh, this is as close as we got to Denzel Washington is a Mexican guy.
Right. It's like SantaCon. They're like, we're doing our SantaCon.
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. We're really going to have the bottom of the barrel of douchebags
Yeah.
showing up dressed as Santa.
But yeah, I do. I think it's an interesting, like all these usually trends like this. I'm like, oh, we're getting more and more starved for entertainment, or it's worse, or these are signs of the apocalypse to me. All those things. But like, I weirdly like this. I think it's pretty fun.
You know why I think it's sweet, and I really do think this. It's only because it's men. I don't think we could have a female version of this and have it stay fun.
Stay on the way. Yeah.
Right. I think what you'd have in the female, if there was like a Sabrina Carpenter you'd have men showing up with like their Sabrina Carpenter doll they made out of hair, and they'd be like petting it and like, nice to meet you, Sabrina. It would turn into like the men who go to the AVN awards, the porn awards very quickly and become very weird very quickly.
Yeah. Because for them, it's like, this is the Sabrina they could get to,
This is like, the same thing as the Jalen Hurts thing. This is
right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
With men, you're like, oh, I was gonna drive all the way to California and break into her home. She's right here. Oh wow.
She's here and on display and wants to be talked to as the character I've thought her to be. Like,
yeah.
It's horrific. I know what's going to happen. Someone's going to go. The only woman they could do a lookalike contest and men might not like make it weird is Taylor Swift. Weirdly enough, like I don't think that there's like this bunch of like men. You don't hear of men like ogling Taylor.
True.
in the way that maybe like other stars might have, like the guy who has the hair doll made of,
Yeah, but
Katy Perry.
right. I don't. Yeah, they don't ogle, but men are mad at her.
Oh,
Uh,
fair. That's fair. You're right.
and I think she has a history.
Weirdly.
Yeah, men are weirdly mad at her, and I think she has like a history with stalkers. Um,
Oh. I
but I
always thought of her stalkers as being female for some reason, but that's my biasy, I
Oh, they
think.
might be.
They might be. Okay.
I just like assumed it was guys, but men have a weird like men are weirdly angry at her. I think
The
I'm
woman
mad.
who opened this weekend in Tulsa, Mana, she's very funny, but she has a coloring book that she sells after her
Hmm.
set. And she was like, it's like the Taylor Swift coloring book. And she was like, it goes with every track of my album. And I was like, it's a great idea.
Right.
But she starts by going like any Taylor Swift fans. And I couldn't believe that like the division that created. Like I think to be anti Taylor Swift right now is to be like anti guacamole. Like
Right.
we've decided as a culture.
Right. Yeah, that's funny, man.
We like
Yeah.
it. Like it's like
Yeah. This
like
passed the smell test for all of us. Yeah.
right, not liking it makes you a weirdo. I would keep that to yourself. Like
Yeah.
this is your strange fact that you go on stage in Brooklyn and talk about. Like I don't know. Okay, I have
Yeah.
one more question for you because I
Sure.
think this is something I thought about. I turned on the TV and Stephen A. Smith is on. What are your feelings on Stephen A. Smith right now? Stephen
Yeah.
A. Smith, who is on First Take and on ESPN and 1,000 other shows. He's on there all day. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough for me to listen or watch Stephen A. Smith.
It's tough for you.
It's tough for me.
And you're a sports fan. That's why I ask you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It exactly like, and not that I'm looking for, hard, cold mathematical analysis, but
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I don't. There's better entertainers that they like. I get what he does. He's like a sports radio kind of a guy. Like he's like an
Mm-hmm.
AM radio kind of a voice. But then if
Sure.
you watch like inside the NBA, you're like, that's how you do it. Like that's how
Right.
you be
You Chuck
funny.
and Charles Barkley and
Yeah,
and Shaq and yeah.
and honest and get your point across without screaming. I
Right.
don't think we need more people in America in 2024 screaming their takes. Just don't think we
I
need.
It is funny that I like Stephen A. Smith and I was like a fan. I don't mind him. I think my opinions changed. Like there was a lot of Stephen A. Smith hate at first
Sure.
because he was kind of like circus Barker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I do think there's a place for that. I think it's interesting. I only bring this up with you because I knew you would have an opinion on him, but I also wanted to test this theory.
Yeah.
Do you think Stephen A. Smith is kind of like represent? I was watching Stephen A. Smith, and it was like he makes so much money that there seems to be this like weird nod on the shows that he's on now, where he's the boss.
Yeah.
And it's a subtle change because, and it's a little bit because he's gotten like he kind of won the battle with Skip Bayless, who's now
Right.
like doesn't even exist anymore, and he kind of like cast that show. So like it is weird to watch a debate show where everyone is being paid by the person they're being debated by.
Right.
Like, and it's this kind of weird like income inequality that is showing up in entertainment. Like,
Yeah.
because the only way a show gets made is now because of the person with the biggest following or the biggest paycheck.
Right.
So, and this happens on Pat McAfee. This happens on
Yeah,
Stephen A.
sure,
Smith's show,
McAfee, for sure.
where like no one is having an honest talk with him. Unless it's like Aaron Rodgers, who's brought in. So they have to bring in a person with as much money as the person who's hosting
Right.
to have an actual honest talk. And it's kind of bizarre. And I have this like issue. Bill Simmons has this a little bit where he brings on like a lesser person that he pays. And like when Cousin Sal's on with him, I love the show and it's like a good show because he can give him shit.
He doesn't care. But Stephen A. Smith is also just like there's all these Stephen A. Smith acolytes. Shannon Sharp being one of them.
Right.
It's so the two of them together, it's like unwatchable because they're both just blowing each other while screaming at they're like basically saying I love you to each other, but screaming sports at each other. It's so
Right. And because also Shannon Sharp knows that he is like his own company gets injected with followers and people because he goes on ESPN on a consistent basis, and then he has his own thing going on YouTube that like is a huge thing in its own right. Like it's all a little bizarre. Like it doesn't feel like, because I've been talking about this, how like this weird thing right now where the only way to have a TV show is to be famous for being the greatest athlete. And it's like, that is weird. Like Jason Kelsey is going to host a late night show on ESPN.
right.
Like this is really happening.
Yeah.
What in the world has I don't know if I've ever been entertained. I remember Jason Kelsey, I know for doing like, now I know him for like being brother of Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
Right,
But
right.
I knew him as Hall of Fame lineman who wore a funny costume and did a funny kind of WWE speech at their Super Bowl parade.
Yeah.
These are the only things I've known him as far as entertainment's concerned. And now he's Johnny Carson?
Yeah, I think it's the podcast, the athlete in the podcast space, then they go like, oh, they're entertaining now. But if you have actually listen to an athlete's podcast, you're like, it is horribly boring because they're
I,
doing what we do, but they have more of an inside ear, obviously, to the
right.
on and they're fascinating, whatever. But like they're not comedians. They're
Well,
very boring.
And the bar is lower for them from the public.
Right.
I don't mean that as I don't know how that sounds to someone listening. That might sound bitter, of us or me because I'm saying
But I
it.
think that's fair.
I know from experience. I tweeted for Darren Williams once, the point guard who played for
The Nets and the Jazz.
the Nets and the Jazz. So it was when he was with the Nets, and I tweeted for him at an
Okay.
event. He did a dodgeball event where it was like for charity. It was like a great event. And I think, Michelle Wolf and we both tweeted for him. We wrote some tweets and we got paid. And
Yeah.
we also had to stay very clean. You have to be like, but they were like, make Darren funny. And we did nothing. Like the tweets were like soft. Like it was not, it was Rob Lowe is short because his name is Lowe. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
it was like stuff like that. And the response, like the number of retweets, the number of, and this is back when Twitter was like more in its heyday and like you'd get immediate like response to it. And you're like, and people writing back, whoa, Darren's funny now. And you're like, oh, like, and now I think of that all the time because I'm like, oh, like would Darren get a late night show? Like, like.
Hey, remember Blake Griffin? Like, and Blake Griffin is
Right.
funny, but if you judge him against comedians, you'd be like, he's a comedian that needs work, but he has got good
He's
instincts,
an open
right?
micer.
Right.
He's an open micer that you go, oh, this person's going to be pretty good.
Right. But as a Hall of Fame power forward, you're like, he's unbelievable.
At
So it's like, I
comedy.
get it. Like
Yeah.
if you watched, if you saw me or you saw one of us playing sports, you might be like, hey, pretty good. You know what I mean? For a comedian,
Right.
pretty good.
No one would say that about me, but I know
know,
what you mean.
But
Oh,
then it'd be crazy if someone was like, put them in the NFL, and that's what's happening.
right. Well, we don't. It shows how little respect people have.
I think they're just coming in. You just see what happens.
Let's let the housekeeper. I just want. Okay, listen, Anthony.
Oh,
Thank
hey,
you for
how's
coming
it
on.
going? I got a late checkout at noon.
This is the third person.
It's
you've
okay, no
told.
worries.
I think there's going to be a banner outside the hotel that says Anthony has a late checkout at noon. Okay, we got to go. Anthony, thank you for doing this.
Yeah,
Have
for
a
sure,
safe
dude.
flight. Everyone go listen to Talktown. That is Anthony's new podcast that I have been on. I was on
were
2
good.
episodes. I had a great time. We got Greg very mad. I would say listen to the second episode where Greg gets mad at us for saying that he shouldn't have free reign to just show
he wanted to he got greedy when it came to kidnapping day. I know that's a crazy sentence to say, but that's the bones of what happened.
It makes total sense if you listen to Talktown. Everyone go follow Anthony on Instagram. All his information at Anthony DeVito _. So
Yeah,
go follow. And Anthony, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
yeah, for sure, dude. Of course.
Boom.